So the context behind this, guys, the reason why I put this together is these are the 10 most proven methods to get contracts and get deals and make sales in what we're doing here. And I think too often we get lost in the kind of like the minutia of it all, or I have so many leads and so many appointments. At least once a quarter, we need to remind ourselves to go back to basics, because doing the basics gets results. And when we don't do the basics and we don't do the little things, we get into bad habits. I've done it. Everybody that I know has done it. And so it just takes a little bit of course correcting from time to time to be able to optimize ourselves to have the best level of success. Okay. So I want everybody, this is going to be interactive. I actually want everybody to repeat after me as I go through each one of these. Okay. So these are the 10, let me say 10 sales commandments, please, of Offer Now, Idaho. All right. If you guys do these 10 things on a consistent basis, you will get results. You will get contracts. No mistake. There's no guesswork. If you do these things, you will get contracts. It's science. It's a proven formula. All right. The first one, I want everybody to repeat after me. I will qualify based on timeline and motivation, not price.
Will qualify
Okay.
based on
Timeline and motivation, not on price.
Does everybody understand why?
People put fronts up on the phone, and you get in person. If they have the adequate timeline and motivation, you get in front of them, you're going to really be able to break down potentially the truth and get to a solution for them. And it's not based on price.
And I see, and I'm just going to call it like it is, guys. I think there are some appointments. This is myself included. I've done this plenty of times. When I get a call within 15, or Corey gets a call within 15 to 30 minutes of the appointment start time, to me, that means one of two things. It means they didn't agree to our upfront agreements, which is probably a justified abrupted appointment, right? Let's defend our time. Hey, they're not going to abide by the rules of engagement. Well, we got to find out why. That's a time when we can step out in the first 15 or 10 minutes, or sometimes even the first 5 minutes, and have that conversation. But if they agree to our upfront agreements and our script within the first, 5 to 10 minutes in the intro and the appointment, and then we're calling within a half hour, to me, that means we're rushing things. We're not getting to we're not asking enough questions to really find out what the seller's pain points are. And the reason for that is every seller that we meet with, the comfortable topics are going to be price and condition. Price and condition. Let me walk you around. Let me show you the house. Let me talk about all the upgrades that I've done. I'm proud of this. I've lived here a long time. I want you to recognize how proud I am about this stuff and how special it is to me. And this is what I want for the property. That's what they want to talk about. And man, they're going to put up a fight. They're going to put up a fight. Every time you try to ask a pain question, they're going to loop it back to, well, if you can't do this price, then it's a waste of time. Well, if you can't, I did this, I fixed this up, and look at how nice my kitchen is, and we redid the flooring to this special kind, and all the time wasting type of stuff, right? But it's important for sellers to go through that to feel heard. And so my point with all this is, for number one, every seller that we meet with is going to make it about price and condition, and we have to make it about timeline and motivation. And it's not easy. Number two, I will triple tap and text. Well, repeat after me. I will triple tap and text every lead and opportunity when I reach out.
I will triple tap
every lead opportunity when I reach out.
Corey, what would be a reason that we don't triple tap and text a lead when we reach out, or opportunity?
One's enough. I don't want to disturb them. Or I
Yeah.
don't want to make them angry. Or I've had somebody reach out and say, why would you call me 3 times in a row? I'm angry with you. I'm not going to talk to you anymore.
Corey,
Or
how many, if you were to triple tap and text 100 people, how many people get mad at you for calling 3 times?
maybe 2.
Interesting. So do we make decisions based on what 2 out of 100 people think, or 98 out of 100 people?
98 out of 100.
Okay, that's easy math. Even Corey can do that math.
Barely.
So guys, this is something I see all the time in our Salesforce and in our database. We either call once or twice, or we don't leave a text, or we triple tap them and then we don't leave a text. Extremely important. Yesterday, I texted somebody that, hey, I just drove by your property. It's important you reach out to me ASAP. To an inbound lead I'd gotten in contact with in about 10 days. You know what happened? They called me back within 15 minutes. Were they mad? No, because I said, I'm so sorry to bother you. Or sorry, I didn't say bother you. I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't want you to think that something was wrong. This is why I was calling. They had completely forgotten. When I said that, they had completely forgotten that I sent that text message. And I got them on the phone right away, got to the truth that they had already sold to somebody else on Friday, 3 days ago. So the truth of this, guys, is if you're not triple tapping and texting every lead and opportunity when you reach out, it's because you care too much what other people think about you and you're scared of hurting people's feelings, and you're putting other people's feelings in between you and getting what you want. And it's not even other people's feelings, it's your perception of other people's feelings, which is even worse. All right, number 3. I will use scarcity and limited funds / resources in every conversation. Repeat after me. I will use scarcity and limited funds.
Limited funds
In
in every
every
conversation.
conversation.
Why is that important, Bill?
Well, because that's why we get a yes or no at each conversation or appointment. And that if we don't allocate those funds for your specific property now, then if we have an appointment tomorrow or the following day and we use all the resources we have, we won't have them when you come back to us in 3 days.
I have a question. If it's a EPP situation, how do you approach that scarcity and limited funds when we're really not doing anything or allocating any funds at the exact moment, right? So how would you portray that? I guess you could say the resources. Okay. Yeah, got it. Okay.
Limited bandwidth, limited time. My calendar's full of other seller appointments. Corey, our transaction coordinator, has 27 contracts on the board right now that we're working on. We can't, right now we're not built to handle 50. Right now we're not built to handle 35.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I have 8 other seller appointments this week. We
There's
have
only
limited
so many,
resources.
like there's only so many appointments that we can take on to adequately service everybody the right way. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, John, that's how I like to approach it is like, for us to be able to provide the quality of service that's our standard, we can't work with everybody.
Yeah. Okay. That's been my biggest, hurdle in talking some of the EPP stuff is trying to create that scarcity and limit, and well, you're not paying anything now, so what's so scarce? But that's 100% the resource.
Yeah, it's a slight transition in language when you go from our funds to our partners' funds.
Got it.
Yeah, and this is the key thing here, guys. Every conversation. The reason that we have to do this is the new way of selling is to make yourself scarce so that other people don't feel like there's sales pressure and that you're salesy. We can't be sending texts saying, do you have a couple minutes to talk? When are you free to hop on the phone? We can't do that. That doesn't work. It applies more sales resistance to people, because now you just sound like every other needy salesman that you've ever talked to in your life that you don't want to buy from. Number 4, repeat after me. I will not allow creative avoidance from getting in the way of what I want.
I'll not
Not
allow
allow creative avoidance
from getting in the way of what I want.
Ryan, what's creative avoidance?
It could be a multitude of things, but it's whenever you know you've got something you need to do and find something else that, oh, hey, I need to call this guy back, but I should check my emails to see if somebody else has responded to me. I need to do this, but what about this little task? What about cleaning up my workspace, whatever it might be? Any little distraction that you say, well, I'm still doing something, but it's not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Find anything to do except what you're supposed to do.
Here's the best practical example of this, guys, is social media, pulling it up on your phone and clicking on Zillow and reading the notes before clicking the call button. If you just make those 2 changes, you will 3 or 4x the amount of contracts that you get just from those things. Just from those things. I'm telling you, your productivity level just from doing that little thing. Do you know how much time we waste clicking on Zillow and reading the notes before clicking the call button? We all do it. I've done it. I literally have to stop and catch myself and say, why am I doing that? I just need to click the call button. While it's dialing, I can look at this stuff. When they answer, I can look at this stuff. That is one little thing that is going to give you guys a huge boost on talk time, number of appointments set, and number of contracts closed. Number 5, I will follow the sales process and step out for every call and for every appointment.
follow the sales process.
That's it.
Step
Follow
out.
the
Step
sales
out for every
process.
call, for every appointment.
Call appointment.
I kind of butchered that. It's and call for every appointment. This is one I want to spend a little bit more time on. Who wants to be vulnerable here and say, maybe play devil's advocate here and say why would this be necessary?
Why would it
Or
be
that-
necessary or not
or-
necessary?
Yeah, why would it not be necessary? Why would maybe this is a waste of time, or disagree?
Went into the appointments, they were just price motivated, and basically just said, nope, we're going to list it. So didn't see a reason to step out and call because we weren't going to get the contract today.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, I mean, I can use my yesterday, for example, right? So the first guy that I met yesterday, like right out of the gate was, I'm not really motivated to sell. You guys called me. I'm just trying to look at pricing. And even if I did sell, I don't have anywhere to go. I need the equity from this place for the next place. And I don't know what that timeline is going to look like. Before I can move to my place in Mexico, I've got to hire a new guy for this. To take over here, and it was nowhere. There was really no timeline set at all, and the only motivation was really just price driven. And then the second one was a one leg, right? Him and his brother owned the house, but brother wasn't there, so we weren't going to get into numbers.
So a couple things there. If somebody doesn't have a timeline, that's not an appointment. That's the one thing we care about in qualifying to make an appointment. Right, Corey?
Timeline and motivation.
Okay. So I think that that's usually something that we should be able to figure out on the call or have a good idea of what that might look like. So that's leading into the appointment, setting yourself up for success. While you're at the appointment, what do you guys think the purpose of the step out call is?
I know one is to reset, kind of put yourself back together and clear your head, recompose.
To get another perspective,
yeah,
lower
get
sales
questions.
pressure.
Get questions we didn't think about. Get, you know, things that we, you know, a better way to, you know, to take the conversation to our goal.
Yeah, coaching.
Yeah.
Getting some coaching in mid appointment.
And it's also too that third party thing, you know, it's like, okay, you know, I'm gonna go out and see which qualify for it, you come back and you could, you know, you have someone else that gave you these numbers. So you're in a sense kind of teaming up with them, like, yeah, you know, it's, you know, I even said one time, I said, you know, the great, you know, the worst part about talking with numbers guys is they're always right. You know, and so it puts me on there. I kind of got them on their side, like, oh yeah, numbers guy. So I think having that third party really allows us to kind of get more on the seller side.
Let me ask another vulnerable question. If you guys go on 100 appointments, how many are we closing on that first appointment?
Probably 0.
Well,
I'd hope it's not 0.
30, probably 20 to 30%.
Okay.
Oh, that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10 to 25, somewhere in there.
So that means we got anywhere from 70 to 85 people that we're not closing. How do we progress them through the sales process and get to the truth if they're not ready?
Setting an action step.
Yeah, follow up.
Okay. Let's say we got 85 sellers that we need to set an action step for. Do you think in 85 out of 85 scenarios, we are setting the right action step with an exact follow-up date and time, and it's the correct action step?
Currently,
No.
I'd say I can say no. I haven't. When I got that message yesterday that you posted, and I went on those 2 appointments, I did that. I set the action step in it. It made it like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. You know, like my appointment last night, which I thought was going to sign. They need to crunch the numbers. They need to try to find an idea of a builder cost. I was, oh, great. So tonight we're going to look that up, and then tomorrow morning we're going to talk after my meeting and see what you guys came up with and see if we can move forward. But yeah, it does set the stage for the next action so much, you know, makes it so much better because they're expecting it.
Corey, what would be a reason that we don't set an action step?
It can be defeating at times. Like you go on this appointment, you get to the end, you're like, okay, well, you just wasted my time, is what it can feel like sometimes. You weren't ready to move forward when you said you were, or there's something you didn't tell me on the phone. And I'm just tired. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, because you were emotionally ready to sign a contract with somebody. They were not. And instead of setting that action step to further them along in the process or to get to the truth, it was too hard. So the reason I'm going through this one long-winded, guys, is because the reason for the step out call is not only to provide the third person out for you guys so you can act on their behalf. It's not only to discuss strategy and numbers, it's also so that we can discuss, if they're not ready, what that next action step is and what needs to happen, because it's not always clear. Now, when we get to the point of everybody being above 95% on setting the right action step, updating that in Salesforce, following up with people on their action step day and time, and asking what happened, updating the correct status and the next step and next task in Salesforce, you might not have the need for this. But the reason that we step out is to go through this short little call and process to get you guys more contracts. These things get more contracts. It's not, I know it feels like busy work, but this shit gets more contracts. For every person that you set an action step that isn't ready, only like 1 out of 10 people are going to actually follow through with the action step. So it's also a way for you to purge your pipeline so you can focus on the contenders and separate out the contenders from the pretenders. And so stepping out in the call is important so that we get that correct action step set, because that's going to happen a majority of the time. All right, number 6. Repeat after me. I will not let sellers think about it. I don't need the deal. By not being a needy bitch, I will get more deals.
Will not
Let sellers think about it.
I do.
I don't need the deal.
By
By
not
not
being
being
a
a
bitch, I won't
bitch,
get
I'll
more
get
deals.
more deals.
Get more deals.
This one is interesting because when we're in a state of flow, and Bill's talked about this before on his Saturday appointments, where we really don't need the deal. We're playing with house money. We're feeling good. There's no pressure. Sellers feel that. The irony is you get more contracts when you're like this. And it really starts with not letting sellers think about it. I know that that's a hard thing to do. It's hard at the appointment to say, hey, you know, earlier when we said my worst fear is that you said you'd think about it, not to hurt my feelings, and you just said you're going to think about it, and you said you weren't going to do that. That's uncomfortable. And we think if we are calling people out on that, all of a sudden we're creating friction that's going to cause them to not like us, and then we're not going to get the deal. When in reality, there was no deal to be had. And we're not getting, if somebody is saying I need to think about it, or I need to run it past so and so, or I need to, that's a good one too, John. I need to crunch the numbers. You know, I need to talk to my CPA, I need to talk to my attorney. Those are all objections that are not actually to the truth. Because the next question to that is, if somebody says they need to crunch the numbers, gotcha, okay. What kind of numbers were you hoping for when you crunch them? Got it, okay, so you're not really sure. So you haven't looked into that at all before meeting with me? How do you even know that it's something you can do? Huh. Okay, you need to get an appraisal. Okay, well, if the appraisal comes back above what you expected, how would that change your decision? What if the appraisal comes back below? What's your deciding factor whether to list it or sell it off market? Do you see how I'm going a step further? I'm already saying, okay, fine, you can do that. So when you do that, what if this happens? What if this happens? You're just going a layer deeper. So I know we're not perfect at that. That's something we can all get better at. But those what if statements are really powerful here. And it's going to help you get past these initial walls of I need to think about it. I need to do this and that. Okay, so when you talk to an attorney, what are you hoping they'll say? Well, our agreement was written by Pioneer Title's attorney. What are you hoping your attorney would provide? Perfect. Well, I've actually got a copy here on my phone. What's your attorney's name and email? I'll shoot him a copy right now. Ooh. Now we're starting to feel a little uncomfortable, right? That's the level it takes to get past the BS and get to the truth, okay? That's going to help you guys get deals, and it's going to make you feel too like you're not chasing the deal. You're just being a truth seeker. If we can just get to the truth, and price is the most important thing to you, then we're not a fit. That's okay. Just tell me price is the most important thing to you and you don't care about anything else and why you haven't listed it. with an attorney, or why you haven't listed it with an agent, why you haven't already sold the property, why you're meeting with me here today. Right? We got to go through all those things to really get to the truth. All right, number 7. If a seller contradicts something that they agreed to at the beginning of the appointment, I will call them out on it and act confused.
The
If
seller,
seller contradicts
contradicts
something they agreed to at the beginning of the appointment,
I will
We'll
call them out
it
and
and
act confused.
Chris, why is that one important?
because we already set the stage in the beginning. And that's the whole purpose of having that script, is to weed all this stuff out. So when it comes to them actually bringing this back up, we can circle back and say, listen, I walked through that specific issue with you, and at the time you said everything was fine, but now that's changed. So I'm really confused.
What happens if we don't do this?
Then you let them off the hook. You don't hold them accountable, and they're soaking up your time when you could be helping somebody else.
Yep. And now guess what? They go back in our database. They needed to think about it. And now we have no clue if they're a contender or a pretender. And my default, because I didn't get to the truth, is just going to be, well, I don't want to lose the deal. So let me put them in hot follow-up or manual follow-up because I feel like I was close. And they just said they needed to do this and think about it. And now I'm doing this appointment after appointment, phone conversation after phone conversation, virtual appointment after virtual appointment. Now all of a sudden I have 100 people in my hot follow-up and I'm getting ghosted. And I have no idea who my contenders are, who my pretenders are, and I'm getting really defeated on myself because I feel like I'm just running up against a wall every single day and I don't even know who my hottest leads are and nobody's responding. Why? Because you took the easy way out. And you pay for it on the back end. This number 7 is the hardest one to do for certain personality types. This causes the most amount of friction and the most emotional response at the appointment.
Right. So on those, for when you do call people out on that stuff, obviously the biggest fear is like calling them out on it is like, I'm not going to get the deal if I call them out on it. But the reality is you're not going to get the deal no matter what. So you might as well call them out. That's the first thing. The second thing I can tell you, and obviously I'm learning, like, it doesn't happen as much in this field, but in the field where I came from, where you had like a 3-day right of rescission, they could cancel anytime they want. The ones that you call out on this, they never cancel. Never. They are 100% bought in because they came up with whatever it was and you pushed through it and they're like, yeah, no, that does make sense. Let's go ahead and do it. And then they're bought from that point in, they're bought in. Like there's no turning back. Those don't cancel ever. There's no regret.
Yeah. And the same thing happens too. The half that you guys don't see is once we get something under contract and Corey gets it across the finish line and has the conversation with them about what's going to happen, next steps, access to the property, showings, whatever. If we're not setting the right expectations with the seller because we didn't get to the truth, a hidden objection comes out that Corey then has to deal with in transactions. And sometimes it leads to the legal route because they throw their hands up in the air and they're like, we don't want to do this anymore. Because there's something that we didn't find out at the appointment. They felt emotionally ready to make a decision in that moment. And then because we didn't act confused or we didn't extract more information, they feel regret or somebody talks to them and the level of trust built is low. Number 8, I will set an action step for every seller that is not really ready to make a decision or move forward today.
I will set an action
for every
step
seller
for
that is not
every
ready to make a decision or move
today.
forward today.
So I'm going to call on each person. I want you to give me a number percentage that you think of your leads and opportunities that are assigned to you, what percentage have something filled in the next step for their action step? Corey,
Probably 80%.
Ryan,
Leads, probably like 30, opportunities, 75, 80.
Bill,
Leads close to 0, opportunities better than 90%.
Josh,
Yeah, leads probably 30-ish%. For opportunities, I'm probably at like 60%. So I gotta get way better at follow up on that.
Chris,
Leads around 30 to 40, opportunities, I would say about 70 to 80.
okay, John,
Pretty much about the same, 30 and 80, 70. Trying to get better at putting those action steps in.
okay, good. Number 9. So room for improvement there. That's the point of why I wanted to bring that up, guys, is because if it's a lead, then if it's a lead and we can't get a hold of them, obviously you're not going to have an action step other than you need to just hit them over and over and over again with triple tap and text, right? But if it's somebody that we've talked to, there has to be a what's preventing them from being ready to come on an appointment. What's preventing them from meeting with us? Okay, you need to talk to your husband about where you guys would even go. You need to start looking for other properties. You need to talk to your sister. You need to talk to your tenant that's living in the property rent free. Oh boy, now we're going to have to do some role playing so I can prepare you to have that difficult conversation, or else in 5 years from now, you could end up in the exact same position. That would not be good. All right, number 9, each action step that I set will have an exact day and time for follow-up.
Each action step I set, an exact date and time for follow-up.
Ryan, why is this important?
It's important because if you don't set that date and time, you're leaving it ambiguous. You're not giving them a deadline to make a decision, to actually follow through. You could follow up with them at the end of the week, at the end of the month, and they're like, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. Or, oh yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. And then just keep pushing it down the road. Most people are very deadline oriented, but they know that somebody's going to call them out on it. Okay, you're going to have this conversation by tomorrow morning. We'll have a conversation at 10 o'clock to see how that went. Setting that deadline for themselves and for us to follow up.
So I can tell you guys, we need a lot of work here, and this is going to make the big difference, a massive difference for you guys in your lead pipeline and pipeline management. And it's a trickle down effect, because if we don't do this, or if we do this and then we don't call them out on their action step and decide if they're a contender or pretender, now all of a sudden our backlog of leads increases, and then all the new leads that are coming in, now it's an endless, we're never getting through it all, right? It's an endless sea of leads, and we can't tell who's hot and who's not. Corey, what would be a reason we don't set an action step with an exact day and time?
We could not know what the next step is. I haven't seen this situation before, and I'm not quite sure where to go from here. So then I feel uncertain about asking them to do something because I don't really know what I need to ask them to do. Anyone ever come up against that?
How could we solve that?
Use the greater
Call on
brain.
every appointment. Step out and make a call.
And then what if I'm dealing with an assertive type, Corey, that's like, well, I'm busy, you know, I'll get back to you sometime next week.
Yeah, sometime next week. You know, I've got a few other seller appointments. I mean, my schedule's already pretty full. I mean, are you thinking by Tuesday or Wednesday?
I'm not really sure. Probably Wednesday.
Yeah, I've got I'm pretty booked up on Wednesday. I mean, do you think you could give me a call back? I mean, gosh, I mean, are you gonna call me by like 5 o'clock on Wednesday with your answer to that?
Sure, I can call you by 5.
Okay, you're gonna call me by 5 o'clock on Wednesday. I'll make sure I put that in my calendar for you.
Okay, sounds good. The reason that we have to do that is because how many people that we don't do that with, what are our, if we don't do that, what are our chances of actually hearing from that seller?
0.
Either low, very low, or we hear from them, they're like, oh yeah, I didn't get around to that. My bad.
And this is
push
where
it on the road again.
this is where reframing and mindset is so pivotal, guys. If we set a day and time, an exact day and time for follow-up, and then somebody doesn't do their action step, that's great. That's a good thing. That's something we should celebrate. Why? Because they've shown me that they're not motivated to make a decision this week. There's something going on in their life, and now they're not a manual follow-up, or now they're not a negotiation, or now they're not a hot follow-up, and I need to find out the truth of what's preventing them from taking that next step. Now I can go focus on my 20 hottest leads. Instead, if you allow yourself to get so wrapped up in, oh, I hope they get back to me, at this time. They said they were going to. They said they were going to think about it and talk it over with their brother, and I should be signing them. And then they don't. And we feel like we lost a deal. That difference in mindset is everything. Telling you. And then we're chasing them because we feel like we got to chase them to get the information, and we're not really sure what happened. And it is such a clear line in the sand where you can say, are you a contender or a pretender? And that's how you keep your database and pipeline clean. And you feel really good at the end of every single day, instead of, I didn't get enough done. Oh my gosh, look at all these uncontacted leads and all these opportunities, and I'm on appointments and I'm getting behind. It's going to help you guys immensely to do that hard thing up front, and just say, I got a lot of other seller appointments. Usually when people call me at random times, I'm meeting with another seller and I'm not available. Let me pull up my calendar right now to see when I can squeeze you in between a couple other seller appointments. That is so much more powerful. Somebody says that to you, now all of a sudden you feel like, damn, this guy's legit. Like, this guy's sought after, this guy's wanted, this guy's professional. He does things with exact days and times. I can respect that. I can work with somebody like that. All right, last one, number 10. I will use Ryan's cheat sheet of texts to get responses when sellers ghost me.
I will
Use
use
Ryan's
Ryan's
cheat
cheat
sheet
sheet
responses when sellers ghost me.
Responses when
sellers
sellers ghost.
ghost me.
This is definitely on me for not sending you guys this cheat sheet enough and sharing it with you guys enough, because they're not magic texts, but these texts give you the highest likelihood of getting a response back. And no matter how good you are, you can do everything perfect at the appointment. You can set the perfect action step with an exact date and callback time, and then people just ghost. Why? It's just the people that we deal with. Selling a home is going to be the most important thing that people do in their lives, a majority of people that we work with. That's just before we even get to the emotions and the memories and the family members and the finances and everything that go along with it. So there's a reason why people ghost, and it's because they're just emotionally overwhelmed. So to do that, there's some text messages that we can send that are really, really key to unlocking and getting people to the truth. Because the worst thing, again, is that we have a lead in no man's land in our database, and what happens is, we may have met with them a couple months ago. They had a ton of motivation. They just couldn't quite get there. We set an action step, and then they completely vanish. In the 2 weeks that follow, we hit them up every day or every other day. And then what happens? Oh man, they're not responding. Move on to the next thing. When the problem was, we never got to the truth to understand what was holding them back. And then in the next couple weeks, that objection or truth they resolved or they got over the hump emotionally or whatever it is, and then they sold to somebody else. And because they didn't answer in those first couple weeks, they all of a sudden just like went into the ether. And we just put them in long-term follow-up or in follow-up, but we didn't actually ever get to the truth. So this goes for people too that are like, I changed my mind. It's fine that people change their mind. We gotta get to the truth. We have to understand why. Because if somebody's a motivated seller once, sometimes, majority of the time, it's just going to be a Band-Aid that they have. If they're a hoarder and they decided they're not going to sell, do you think their situation's going to get better or worse?
Worse.
It's not going to get better. So I will make sure that I send this on a recurring basis to you guys, and you can literally copy and paste the text in there into Salesforce and use them because they do get responses. And it might take 4 or 5 of them. All right, guys. Sorry I was long-winded this morning, but this is, if we do these 10 things, this is doing the boring work. This is all the little crap, the unsexy stuff that gets contracts. And if we become masters at these and do these consistently, we will exceed all of our targets, all of our goals, all of our commissions, all of our everything. Corey, you have anything to add that I missed?
I would just say that when I look at this, each point comes from a lesson. It comes from a lesson you guys have probably all experienced. And I can think back to individuals that I've spoken with. And I bet if you guys were to go through here, at least a couple of these probably resonate with people you've met with in the last 2 weeks. And I want to get just a bit vulnerable here for a second. And I want to ask 2 people because these are ones that come to mind. So, John, your appointment yesterday, the impromptu, I met with him a year ago. And at the time, I comped it wrong and wasn't willing to have the uncomfortable conversation that they were willing to accept. We walked out of there. They ended up signing with a realtor, never allowed the realtor to list it. And yesterday, when you went to meet with them again, my comment was, there's something else they're hiding. There's something else they don't want to tell you. They have to convince you they're ready to sell now. And my question is, based on going through this process, and we talk about action steps, are they ready to sell now? And what tells you that?
They're not committing. I mean, they're waffling. Everything's like when I left that first appointment sounded done, ready to go. They understood everything. We made sure they understood. I made sure they understood everything. And I get in there and then just flipped. I think it's, and after texting with Ryan, it's the sun. The sun is the issue, and I think that's that's probably the biggest thing of having to, why they never listed it. Not as much as to clean up stuff, right, or get stuff out of the sheds. That ain't it. It's what they're gonna do when people want to come over and they got their son that does nothing but sit up there and play video games. And he even kind of said it. He said, I mean, we'll just clean up a little bit as much as we can, and people can come up. They like it. They like it. They don't. And I asked him. I said, "Oh, okay. So you think that's going to affect the showings and stuff?" Well, I don't think it will, but yeah, they just weren't ready to. They started to get on the move from what they wanted to do, but they're not. They weren't ready. They need more time to clean up more.
And when we got there, did we set an exact date and time for what their next action step is going to be?
I set a action step, but I didn't say set an exact date and time.
Right. And we're all growing and improving on this. And then there's one other one I wanted to bring up, which is last Friday, seller on Ustick. When I called him on Saturday, the first thing he said to me is, I feel a lot of seller's remorse. Can I back out of the contract? Why would somebody have that as their very first response when the transaction coordinator calls them on the next day?
Somebody got in their ear and told them they could have made more money.
That happens a lot. Yep.
And
Or
I
they
know
feel, yeah, go ahead.
he did bring up the fact that he spoke with a realtor that helped him buy his house, his other property currently moving into. So I know Bill and I scorched earth pretty hardcore and kind of walked him away from the whole realtor thing, and that's what made him feel more comfortable with moving forward with us. I know Bill and I both, after everything was said and done, because we had spent so much time with him and built that rapport, we just, Bill asked him, hey, how do you feel about this? I just want to make sure that this feels right, for you first and foremost. And he said he was good. So I'm kind of shocked that that's what he came back with that phone call on Saturday.
But what did we miss? What did we not hit? That's the question.
When I asked him about access to the property, and he told me, sure, you can probably get in next month.
Yeah,
That's not a surprise. He was kind of like that with us too.
he wouldn't even let.
Yeah, that's not a surprise.
So we're going to get it on equity protection program, which means we have to take it to the market, which means we have to put it on the MLS, which means we have to get showings to sell it.
Photography.
And we're not going to get access for over 30 days.
Something's off about that. I know he was moving out. I'm not sure how long it was going to take him to move out. I know we don't want to get into the weeds right now, but
What that tells me is that there's when we got to that expectation setting, like Josh said earlier, the ones you call out because there's an objection that we haven't overcome, like access, like timing, the ones that we call out at that point are the ones that stick with us and the ones that we can work with because we've set the right expectations. And the ones where we avoid that confrontation, especially at the end when we've been on there and we're emotionally exhausted, are often the ones that create the most issues, the most headaches, and sometimes can just result in us not being able to execute on it.
What's going on in the guy's life that he doesn't want to show the property or give access?
He just told me it was just a utter mess, and I stressed the fact that it didn't matter. I just wanted to kind of just understanding of what it looked like, and that way, we had that just for our notes, and he kept avoiding it. I said, we don't need to walk in. Can I just poke my head in? It wasn't happening. And I know that that being said, I could have done more and said, hey, this is the way this is going to go. I mean, if we're going to make this deal, this is part of the deal. We can't just take pictures of the exterior. We need to see what's going on in the interior. I mean, for all we know, there's missing walls or floor, there's holes in the floor. Like, we don't know what's going on there. We need to have a better idea of what it is that we're looking to purchase.
Yeah, and me as the signing acquisitions agent, I should have said, look, man, I get it, but we need to see this in a week. Can you do that within a week? We need to be able to get in here and see this, right? That way we can best take care of you. Well, I don't know about that. Okay, that tells me you're not really serious. Anybody could get this ready in a week. You're retired, you're on Social Security, you got a pension, you got nothing but time. You're saying you got another house you're moving into. Then it's time to get raw with it. And I didn't do that.
And he's not disabled.
So here, guys, here's the more powerful way to do that. Have him come up with the plan himself. Because if he needs 30 days, 45 days, even 60 days, we just have to get him to agree to that and then say, well, then we're going to need to extend closing out a little bit more. Okay. What do you think is a reasonable enough time for you to do what you need to do before we access the property? 30 days. Okay, perfect. So if we do the 30 days before we can access, we'll probably need another 30 days on the back end. Does that work with you? Yes. Or no, I really need the funds earlier. Okay, well, gosh, I mean, the way that I can come up to your number is we need reasonable access. And if we can't get reasonable access, we just have no idea where to price the property or what we need to do. Can you see how that would be tricky for us? What can we do here? How can we help you?
So I was gonna say, how can we help you? Do you need a box truck? Do you need movers? Do you need like a cleaning crew? Like we've got all these contacts. I've got 25, 30 different contractors on the hook that come in and do repairs for us all the time. I'm sure we can find a discounted price for you, or maybe we can negotiate something that comes out of equity or comes out of escrow. Like, what do you need help to get this done, and we can help you with it.
And you know what the truth is, guys? It's not about the logistics. It's he feels deep pain and he's ashamed about the property's condition. And when we sense that, often with assertive types or people that are very cold or have a front, we need to sense that and go right into storytelling mode. Hey, you know, I'll be honest with you, we buy a lot of houses. Sometimes people that we met with and properties in way worse condition than yours. Sometimes sellers feel a little bit ashamed because of the condition of the property. I'm not saying that that's the case here at all. I'm just telling you, we've seen it all. We buy 8 to 12 properties a month. I mean, we've seen it all. There's a lady in Nampa that had 120 cats at that property that Ryan went in. That's a true story. So we've seen it all. And the last thing I want you to do is feel like you need to hold it to some kind of standard, because we buy as is, and this is what we do, and we're here to help you. So I don't want you to feel that way at all, because this is what we do. If you say that, you got a chance at breaking down the armor a little bit. So then once you set that, once he says 30 days, I need 30 days, then we could stop it there. But man, we really want to set good expectations. Gotcha. Well, with other sellers that we've worked with in the past, sometimes if they say they need 30 days, and then on day 28 or 29, no progress has been made, what do you think would happen if on day 30 you're still not ready to show us the property yet? And we're asking these questions so he can come up with the plan, and he can commit to the plan that he created. That's how you create buy-in. It's not, we're going to tell you how this is going to go and you need to abide by our rules. It's, what can we do together? What works for you? What do you need on your side? And then we bridge that gap. And if you guys do that, it'll really help on the back end we'll get way better Google reviews. It'll make Corey's job easier on the back end. We'll be able to sell the properties for more because the timing will work out better. We'll be able to plan and forecast more of the best time to get pictures, the best time to get people through. So there's a lot of benefits to that, other than just avoiding seller's remorse.
Corey, did he bring in the tenants too? Like, did he factor them in? Because I know he said they were already boxing stuff up and getting ready to get going too. But I'm just curious if he tried to use that as an excuse as well.
Yeah, he originally told me that we couldn't get into either side for a month. And I was able to ask him what would prevent us from getting in the other side in 2 weeks. And eventually he was like, oh, I guess I could ask them. Oh, yeah, you probably could. Could you ask him this weekend? Yeah. Can you get back to me Monday night? Yeah. Okay, what time?
I know Bill's laughing, but guys, the only way Corey can do this is because he's done a million of these.
Yeah.
Little tidbit on assertive types. They don't tend to like handouts. Hey, we can help you, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's more, we've got some resources that I can have you call. I've got boxes, I've got movers. I can give you their info. Kind of going that route and empowering them, especially a lot of times people in these situations, they want to feel like, you know, they're still making that decision, like Ryan said. They don't want to feel like they're just getting, you know, a handout, somebody dragging them to the finish line. They want to take some power and control back. But doing that with good action steps and, hey, asking those right questions.
So we're over time here, guys. I'm going to go around the room quick. I want you guys each to pick one of these that you're going to focus on today. Whether it
Number
be
one.
at a seller
Limited
appointment or a
funds.
call.
Yeah, limited
Bill-
funds and resources in every conversation is mine.
All right. Ryan is number 3. Chris, you.
Number one, I need to do a better job. I feel like I'm getting better, but it just goes back to protecting our time and spending our time in front of the right people, not tire kickers.
Corey.
I will set an action step for every seller that is not ready to make a decision or move forward today.
Number 8. Love it. Bill.
Number 6, all day.
Ooh, love that one. Not being a needy bitch. All right. Josh.
Number 8. I'm with Corey on that one.
Number 8. Love it. John.
Yeah, action step. I saw it in action last night, and I could feel how it's it's action step all day long.
Okay. For me, it's number 10. You know how I know it's number 10? Because I pulled up the cheat sheet of text last night, and there was a couple on there that I was like, I haven't used that in a while. Well, I haven't used that in a while because it wasn't in front of my freaking face. So now I'm going to make sure that you guys have it and print it out and put it next to your desk. So,
Cool. We're also going to upload that into Salesforce. You can use them as quick texts.
ooh, love that.
Will you
Even
share
better.
a copy of this 10 sales commandments?
Yes, it is also in the training materials at the very top of the page.
All right, guys, let's go kick ass today. Everybody have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
Great
See
day,
you guys.
everyone.